Yeah.
You don't, and it's taken the wrong way. And I will say that one of the why I'm grateful for this work is when I'll tell you this story real quick. When I was doing the cable guy, I had lines were cut, and in the final cut of the movie, all you see me do is dress Jim Carrey in his battle gear in the medieval time scene and throw him the battle axe.
Yeah.
And whatnot. But we filmed over 4 days in Anaheim, 17-hour days. So I would take my cast chair, sit it next to his, and just sit there.
Mm-hmm.
So that when he'd talk, he'd just talk to the person next to him. We're chatting. And so we had a nice, good conversation, over a bunch of conversations. And on the last day, I was leaving, and I went up to Ben Stiller, who directed, and I said, "Hey, man, thanks," because he was in the callbacks. I said, "Thanks for casting me." He goes, "Hey, man, you're really funny, blah, blah. It's good, and sorry I yelled at you," because he did yell at me. That's a story for another time. And then I said to Matthew Broderick, "Hey, it's a pleasure to work with you." And he goes, "Hey, it was a pleasure to work with you." And he was very nice, but it wasn't genuine.
Right.
And then I said to Jim, I said, "Hey, man, it was an honor to work with you." And he turned to me, put hand like this, hand on top, and he goes, "It was a pleasure to work with you." And he goes, "Remember what I told you?" He goes, "When you do this," or he said, he didn't say whatever, but I told you. He goes, "Remember this. You are successful when you're doing what you love, and you, my friend, are a success." And he said, "Nobody knew who I was for years."
Yeah.
And he goes, "And I was successful." And he goes, "You're right on the right path." Because at that time, my lines hadn't been cut. Cable Guy was going to be a huge movie.
Right.
He said, "As long as you're doing this, you're successful." So
Right.
fast forward to 2 years. We had talked a lot. Fast forward 2 years later, I grew up in music. I didn't go to college for very long, but my father was a music professor, and I was a music major and whatnot. So I was playing trombone in Manonthemoon in the Rockette scene.
Oh, right on.
And
All right.
So in the Cable Guy, I had a wig on for medieval times where my hair was like this.
Right.
And then not in Manonthemoon, I was just like this. So Jim Carrey was staying in the Andy Kaufman character while we're filming, and he's walking by, and he looks right at me, and he goes, "Hey, man, how are you?" And he goes, "Yeah, man, you. How are you, brother? I didn't know." He goes, "Your hair, it's just..." And I go, "You remember me?" And he goes, "Yeah, you look different." And I go, "Oh, that was a wig." And he goes, "I didn't know you played the trombone." And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "My father, he played the clarinet." Now I remember that Jim's father, I read that somewhere, played the clarinet. And I
Right.
go, "Yeah, I read that somewhere." And he goes, "Anyway, it's real good to see you." And he walks by, and I was like, "Holy,
That's
great,
pretty cool.
Jim Carrey remembers me." Like,
Yeah.
He meets everybody. I'm
Yeah.
like, wow.
Yeah, can you imagine? That's amazing,
That was
dude.
incredible. It blew my mind. 3 years later,
Yeah.